It's the Book of Days Project, and it is March 6th. This day nearly was forgotten by those in delicate care of the Book of Days Project. But alas, we are here. Born on this day, Michelangelo Buonarroti, painter, sculptor, and architect, 1474, in Chiusi. Also born on this day, Francesco Guicciardini, a diplomatist, in 1482 in Florence. Died on this day, Roger Lord Grey de Ruthyn in 1352, great medieval name. Sir John Hawkwood, first English general in 1393 in Florence. English general dead in Florence. Zachary Orsinius, a German divine, in 1583 in Neustadt. Sounds like a Reformationist. Philip, 3rd Earl of Leicester, in 1693. An assortment of strange figures died on this day. We will conclude with Benjamin Travers, surgeon, in 1858. The feast day of today is that of St. Fridolin, abbot, 538. St. Baldred of Scotland, about 608. So let's talk about some interesting notes today. Mid-Lent, or Mothering Sunday. In the year 1864, the 6th of March, is the 4th Sunday in Lent, commonly called Mid-Lent Sunday. Another popular name for the day is Mothering Sunday, from an ancient observance connected with it. The harshness and general painfulness of life in old times must have been relieved by certain simple and affectionate customs which modern people have learned to dispense with. Amongst these was a practice of going to see parents, and especially the female one on the present, such as a cake or a trinket as a present. The youth engaged in this amiable act of duty was said to go a-mothering, and thence the day itself came to be called Mothering Sunday. One can readily imagine how, after a stripling or maiden had gone to service or launched in an independent housekeeping, the old bonds of filial love would be brightened by this pleasant annual visit, signalized, as custom demanded it should be, by the excitement attending some novel and perhaps surprising gift. There was also a cheering and peculiar festivity appropriate to the day, the prominent dish being furmity, which we have to interpret as wheat grains boiled in sweet milk, sugared and spiced. In the northern parts of England and in Scotland, there seems to have been a greater leaning to steeped peas fried in butter with pepper and salt. Pancakes, so composed, passed by the name of carlings, and so conspicuous was this article that from it Carling Sunday became a local name for the day. Little ditty. Tid mid and misera Carling palm pies egg day remains in the north of England as an enumeration of the Sundays of Lent, the first three terms probably taken from, that being Tid, Mid, and Misera, taken from words and obsolete services for the respective days, and the fourth being the name of Mid-Lent Sunday, Carling, from the cakes by which it was distinguished. Do go to our blog spot, and you can take a look at the pictures that are included, or I should say the illustrations are included of such cakes on our blog spot at bookofdaysproject.blogspot.com. So it is Mothering Sunday. Tradition and truth is remarked upon by Chambers on this day in such a way. The value of popular tradition as evidence in antiquarian inquiries cannot be disputed, though in every instant it should be received with the greatest caution. A few instances of traditions existing from a very remote period and verified in our own days are worthy of notice. On the northern coast of the Firth of Forth, near the town of Largo in Fifeshire, there has existed from time immemorial an eminence known by the name of Norrie's Law. And the popular tradition respecting the spot has ever been that a great warrior, the leader of a mighty army, was buried there, clad and the silver armor he wore during his lifetime. Norie's law is evidently artificial, and there can be no wonder that the neighboring country people should suppose that a great chief had been buried underneath it, for the interment of warrior chieftains under artificial mounds near the sea is as ancient as Homer. Hector, speaking of one whom he intended to slay in single combat, says, here's what Hector says, "The long-haired Greeks, to him upon the shores of Hellespont, the mound shall heap that those in after times who sail along the darksome sea shall say, this is the monument of one long since, fallen to his grave by mighty Hector slain." Our Anglo-Saxon ancestors buried their warrior leaders in the same manner. The foregoing, the quotation seems almost parodied in the dying words of the Saxon Beowulf. I've never quoted Beowulf before. Here we go. "Commend the famous in war to make a mound, right after the funeral fire, upon the nose of the promontory, which shall for a memorial to my people rise high aloft on Heniosness, that the sea sailors may afterwards call it Beowulf's Barrow, when the Brentings, over the darkness of the flood, shall sail afar." So, it was only natural for the rustic population to say that a chief was buried under Norie's law. Agricultural progress has in late years thrown over hundreds of burial barrows, exposing mortuary remains, and there are a few laborers in England or Scotland who would not say, on being pointed out a barrow, that a great man at some distant period had been interred beneath it. Interesting. What is remarked upon in this book of days? There's no telling. Canterbury-Pilgrim Signs will complete our reading for the day. The Thames, like the Tiber in Rome, has been the conservator of many minor objects of antiquity, very useful in aiding us to obtain a more correct knowledge of the habits and manners of those who in former times dwelt upon its banks. Whenever digging or dredging disturbs the bed of the river, Thames that is, some antique is sure to be exhumed. The largest amount of discovery took place when old London Bridge was removed, but other causes have led to the finding of much that is curious. Among these varied objects, not the least interesting, are a variety of small figures cast in lead, which proved to be the signs worn by the pilgrims returned from visiting the shrine of St. Thomas Becket at Canterbury, and who wore them in their hats or as brooches upon some portion of their dress in token of their successful journey in pilgrimage to the shrine of St. Thomas of Becket at Canterbury. The custom of wearing these brooches is noted by Giraldus Cambrensis as early as the 12th century. That ecclesiastic returned from a continental journey by way of Canterbury and stayed some days to visit Becket's shrine. On his arrival in London, he had an interview with the Bishop of Winchester, and he tells us that the bishop, seeing him and his companions with the sign of St. Thomas hanging about their necks, remarked that he perceived that they had just come from Canterbury, a dead giveaway. Erasmus, in his colloquy on pilgrimages, noted that pilgrims are covered on every side with images of tin and lead. The cruel, I guess these were the tattoos of the ancient days. The cruel and superstitious Louis XI of France customarily wore such signs stuck around his hat. The anonymous author of supplement to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales described that famed party of pilgrims upon their arrival at the archiepiscopal city, and says, "Then this manner and custom is, signs there they bought, for men or contres should know whom they had sought. Each man set his silver in such things as he liked, and in the meanwhile the matter had ye piked his bosom full of Canterbury brooches." The rest of the party, we are afterwards told, set their signs upon their heads and some upon their caps. Thank you for joining the Book of Days. It was March the 6th. Tomorrow is March the 7th.